Happy September, everyone, and welcome to a reading wrap up and a September hopefuls. Let's talk about all the books that I read in the month of August, and in combination with this video, I want to talk about my September hopefuls. So, all the books that I want to read for September, and notice I said hopefuls, not TBR, because if I set myself up for these certain books, my mood can change, and I don't want to be attached to this list. So, starting with August reads, I read a total of 5 books, and I'm gonna go in the order of which I read them in. The first book that I read is One of Us is Dead by Geneva Rose. This is like a murder mystery thriller. The synopsis says, opulence, sex, betrayal, sometimes friendships can be deadly. Meet the woman of Buckhead, a place of expensive cars, huge houses, and competitive friendships. Shannon was once the queen bee of Buckhead, but she's been unceremoniously dumped by Bryce, her politician husband. When Bryce replaces her with a much younger woman, Shannon sets out to take revenge. Crystal has stepped into Shannon's old shoes, a young, innocent Texan girl. She simply has no idea what she's up against. Olivia has waited years to take Shannon's crown as the unofficial queen of Buckhead. Finally, her moment has come. But to take her rightful place, she will need to use every backstabbing, manipulative, underhand trick in the book. Ginny owns Glow, the most exclusive salon in town. Ginny knows all her clients' secrets and dark desires, but will she ever tell? Who amongst these women will be clever enough to survive Buckhead, and who will wind up dead? They say that friendships can be complex, but no one said it could ever be this deadly. So yes, a lot of names thrown out there, and that is because we follow a group of multiple women. We do kind of jump back and forth in time, so the setting of the book, everything has already happened. We know that somebody ends up dead, and so we kind of see one of the women's perspectives and how everything unfolded and how everything unraveled. I ended up giving this book a 4 out of 5 stars, and the total rating on Goodreads is 3.81. The next book that I finished is The Mystery Guest by Nita Prose. Molly Gray is not like anyone else with her flair for cleaning and proper etiquette. She has risen through the ranks of the glorious 5-star Regency Grand Hotel to become the esteemed head maid. But just as her life reaches a pinnacle state of perfection, her world is turned upside down when J.D. Grimthorpe, the world-renowned mystery author, drops dead. Very dead, on the hotel's tea room floor. When Detective Stark, Molly's old foe, investigates the author's unexpected demise, it becomes clear that this death was murder most foul. As the case threatens the hotel's pristine reputation, Molly knows she alone holds the key to unlocking the killer's identity. But that key is buried deep in her past, because long ago, she knew J.D. Grimthorpe. As I've mentioned this in my reading vlog, I absolutely adored this book. I love the main character, Molly, and would highly recommend if you are looking for something witty. With this book, I've discovered that I really enjoy the trope of time jumps and time skips going back and forth. Not as in there's like this big gap missing in the storyline. I'm talking about 2 different times being jumped back and forth through the book to where you're reading both times and you're understanding them kind of like individually, and then towards the end they come more together and you're gaining more access and more information as you're reading both of them to draw like a big conclusion towards the end. Highly recommend this book. I gave it a 5 out of 5 stars, and the Goodreads rating is 3.83. The next book that I finished is The Fury by Alex Michaelides, a masterfully placed thriller about a reclusive ex-movie star and her famous friends whose spontaneous trip to a private Greek island is upended by a murder. At its heart, it's a love story, isn't it? Lana Farrar is a reclusive ex-movie star and one of the most famous women in the world. Every year, she invites her closest friends to escape the English weather and spend Easter on her idyllic private Greek island. I tell you this because you may think you know the story. You probably read about it at the time. It caused a real stir in the tabloids, if you remember. It had all the necessary ingredients for a press, a celebrity, a private island cut off by the wind, and a murder. We find ourselves trapped there overnight, our old friendships, concealed hatred, and desire for revenge. What followed was a game of cat and mouse, a battle of wits full of twists and turns, building to an unforgettable climax. The night ended in violence and death as one of us was found murdered. But who am I? My name is Elia Chase, and I'm going to tell you a story unlike any you've ever heard. It's in the synopsis. This book is full of twists and turns. You are being misled constantly, and personally, I really enjoy that. I liked that our narrator is a character that was in this island, and he constantly breaks like that fourth wall to talk to us as the readers while also being a character in the story plot as it's happening. So the way it was written was very, very interesting. Highly recommend. I gave this book a 5 out of 5 stars, and it has a 3.38 on Goodreads. The next book that I read was Motherthing by Ainslie Hogarth, a darkly funny domestic horror novel about a woman who must take drastic measures measures to save her husband and herself from the vengeful ghost of her mother-in-law. When Ralph and Abby Lamb move in with Ralph's mother, Laura, Abby hopes it's just what she and her mother-in-law needs to finally connect. After a traumatic childhood, Abby is desperate for a mother figure, especially now that she and Ralph are trying to become parents themselves. Abby just has so much love to give to Ralph, to Laura, and to Mrs. Bondi, her favorite resident at the long-term care home where she worked. But Laura isn't interested in bonding with her daughter-in-law. She's venomous and cruel, especially to Abby, and life with her is hellish. When Laura takes her own life, her ghost haunts Abby and Ralph in very different ways. Ralph is plunged into depression, and Abby is terrorized by a force intent on destroying everything she loves. With everything on the line, Abby comes up with a chilling plan that will allow her to keep Mrs. Bondi, rescue Ralph from his tortured mind, and break Laura's hold on the family for good. All it requires is a little ingenuity, a lot of determination, and a unique recipe. I don't know if this is done on purpose. I swear. Look at this. I'm clicking on read more and like nothing is coming up. I don't know if the author did that on purpose. I don't know. Odd. Does it make you want to read it? I wouldn't say that this was very horror-ish. I feel like a horror involves more like not supernatural, but just something that just really grosses you out and makes you uncomfortable. But this one didn't really make that or cause that for me. The relationship that she has with her mother-in-law is awful. She does kind of like become obsessed with her husband a little bit, which I guess can be where the uncomfortableness comes from. I ended up giving this book a 3 out of 5 stars, and the total Goodreads rating is 3.67. And last on that list is Funny Story by Emily Henry. Daphne always loved the way her fiance Peter told their story, how they met, how they fell in love, and moved back to his lakeside hometown to begin their life together. He was really good at telling it, right up until the moment he realized he was actually in love with his childhood best friend Petra, which is how Daphne begins her new story, stranded in beautiful Winding Bay, Michigan, without friends or family, but with a dream job as a children's library, and proposing to be roommates with the only person who could possibly understand her predicament, Petra's ex, Miles. With a penchant for taking solace in the sounds of heartbreak love ballads, Miles is exactly the opposite of practical. Buttoned up Daphne, whose co-workers know so little about her they have a running bet that she's either FBI or in witness protection. The roommates mainly avoid one another until one day, while drowning their sorrows, they form a tenuous friendship and a plan. Said plan also involves posting deliberately misleading photos of their summer adventures together, but it's all just for show, of course, because there's no way Daphne would actually start her new chapter by falling in love with her ex-fiance's new fiance's ex, right? With this read, I gave Emily Henry another chance, and I fell in love with her writing. I don't know if it's just this book or if it's like me seeing it in a different light. This was so funny. It was so endearing. I loved the main characters. It felt so real. It didn't feel made up or perfect in any way to where it's just so unrealistic. It was really enjoyable, and I ended up giving this a 5 out of 5 stars. And on Goodreads, it has a 4.27 total rating. So this one is very much a crowd favorite. And finally, these are the books I want to read for the month of September. Again, these are only hopefuls. This isn't necessarily a TBR. So September really does mark the end of summer and the beginning of fall. Unfortunately, here in Houston, Texas, it feels like summer up until like November. I have had Christmases here in Houston wearing short sleeve shirts. It's really hard to get into the fall season, but as we transition, I want to read Just for the Summer by Evie Jimenez. I feel like I need to read this first so that I can say goodbye for the summer, and I don't want to wait until next year to read this because this was also a crowd favorite. After reading Funny Story, I have like this craving for more funny romance novels, and everybody loves this, so I hope that it can give me like similar vibes. So this is definitely going to be one to check off first. The remaining 4 books do give off more fall vibes, and that includes The Reappearance of Rachel Price by Holly Jackson. I've read 4 other of her books, a trilogy and then another standalone, and although she is kind of thick, I do have the confidence that this is going to be a fast-paced, fast read, again because I feel like I know the author's writing so well. Next on my September hopefuls is The Book of Cold Cases by Simone St. James. I've been wanting to read this for quite some time now. I'm a huge true crime fan, and I feel like this can really deliver that true crime feeling for me. I've had this since March of 2022, so It's been quite some time on my bookshelf. Next up, this one is one of my newer additions from Book of the Month. This is The God of the Woods by Liz Moore. She is also pretty thick, but I've seen that this book has been picked for multiple book clubs hosted by like famous people, and so excited for this one. I don't know what any of this is about, and this takes place in August, so I definitely have to get to this soon. So I guess I'm gonna have to read just for the summer and this one first. And lastly, on my September hopefuls is Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. I feel like this is the only book cover that I have that is in black and white, which is very enticing. This might be more like Halloween vibes. What I do know is that Leigh Bardugo is such a great author. I have read the duology that includes Six of Crows and Crooked Kingdom, and I really enjoyed the characters, the writing, everything was so good, the world building, no complaints here, so I'm hoping that this is just as good. So that is all that I have for you guys today. August wrap up and September hopefuls. Thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know what books you are planning to read this fall. Give this video a big thumbs up, and I will see you in my next one.